Greetings, St. Paul's, and blessings on this Friday. Today, the Church celebrates the feast of St. Joseph, the husband of Mary and father of Jesus. And the psalm appointed for the feast is Psalm 89. Your love, O Lord, forever will I sing. From age to age, my mouth will proclaim your faithfulness. For I am persuaded that your love is established forever. You have set your faithfulness firmly in the heavens. So the Feast of St. Joseph is one of my favorites, particularly because it reminds the church that God doesn't always or hardly ever looks for the people in high places and in high positions to be the ones to be the main witnesses or caregivers of God's testimonies, but rather God chooses among the lowly, just in the same way in which Mary sings of God looking upon the lowliness of his handmaiden. In that same way, Joseph, a carpenter by trade, a man of not many means, but very devout in his faith as a Jew, was chosen by God to be the one who would be Jesus's earthly father, the one who would protect both he and Mary from the different persecutions that were going on in the Roman Empire at that time, when he had to flee time and time again to make sure that Herod couldn't get to the child Jesus to try to put him into harm. This was Joseph's responsibility, just in the same way in which Mary's responsibility was to be the one to carry Jesus in her body, to bear him from her body and care for him as an infant. These are two very important roles, and they go together. So in that same way, I think in our time, we need to be aware that God is not looking for the rich and the powerful and the well-to-do as the ones who God is going to use to be the bearer of the word of God in our day, in our time. God looks for those who are humble of heart, mind, and spirit, to be the ones to receive the word, care for it, and carry it forth. That doesn't mean that if you have financial means and good education and all of that, God is not going to ask you to also do the same. But I think that the biblical stories time and again tell us and show us as an example that it is very hard for someone who is comfortable and who has significant means of surviving in this world. It is very hard for them to turn and be humble enough to realize that they need God in their lives, and that God is significantly more important than all the things that they may have in this material world. It is no coincidence that we hear the story when Jesus says that it is harder for a rich person to enter into heaven than it is for a camel to go through the eye of a needle. My friends, Joseph is a wonderful example of humility, of being willing to listen to God's command and follow it, even though it is against the practice of his culture and of his time, by taking Mary, a pregnant young woman, as his wife. And it is an example for us to live in that same sense of humility before God, to be willing to listen to God's call and respond with a, "Here I am, send me. Yes, God, I will take this on," with a humble heart, with a conviction that God's blessing is sure and God's grace is with us. Today is Friday, and therefore I would like to remind you of the offerings that St. Paul's has this weekend. We begin this evening with Stations of the Cross at 6:30 p.m. Then tomorrow at 5 p.m., we have happy hour gathering. And then on Sunday, We have Holy Eucharist at 8 a.m., morning prayer at 9:15, coffee hour at 9, and at 10 o'clock, Holy Eucharist. And then at 11:30, morning prayer, Bible study. Sorry about that. Hope you can join us, and may God's blessing continuously be upon you this day and always.